It's time for Lefties Losing It, and I've got some local loopy lefty content for you tonight. Oh, we've got our fair share of crazy down under. But first, here is Scottish actor Alan Cumming, who was guest hosting Jimmy Kimmel's show, and he seems determined here to be even more annoying and more stupidly woke than Kimmel. You know what is worse than one dumb analogy? 5 dumb analogies.
I happen to believe that there are actual superheroes in real life who walk among us. And these superheroes are called trans people. Because just like superheroes, trans people are born with something special and magical about them, and they often have to hide what's special and magical about them from other people. Like superheroes, they grow up in a society that doesn't understand them, that makes them the other and often hates them. Like superheroes, trans people just want the world to be a safer place, and they believe we should protect each other and live our lives in peace. Like superheroes, evil billionaires want to get rid of trans people for no reason whatsoever. And just like superheroes, trans people are not new. They've been around forever and they're not going anywhere, no matter how much this administration tries to make you fear them.
And that painfully unfunny and diabolically dumb monologue was not done yet. Not only does this weirdo see trans people as some sort of superheroes, he seems to think they are treated worse than criminals, worse than rapists. Indeed, he said that on TV, along with this lie about the president.
There is no evidence that trans people are a threat to women. There is, however, ample evidence that the President of the United States publicly brags about barging into beauty pageant dressing rooms and grabbing women by their p***s. Wake up, America! Why on earth would a rapist go to the bother of pretending to be trans in a country that actually treats rapists better than trans people?
Wake up, America. Gosh, I can't imagine why these late-night TV shows are not rating well. I can't imagine why Greg Gutfeld has an audience that is far larger than all of the others. Now to Australia, where a former reality TV participant turned Instagram influencer, Abby Chatfield, posted this on TikTok, calling on Americans to assassinate the president. This is gross.
Americans, when are you going to do it? Why isn't it already done? Every day there's another happening, right? Awful for your country. Awful, right? Why don't we redirect this energy to something else? You know? There's all these incels that are going, oh my so they go and do. You know what would actually make people respect you a little bit and make people want you? Is if you did it. Is if you did it. You get heaps of fan mail. Oh my God. Oh my God. Just do it.
Yep, unbelievable. And there was this demented performance from the same character calling on Americans to riot because apparently the election was rigged and they have no more democracy. Now, this sad little bully, crybully, combination of crybaby and bully, actually has a following among young girls in Australia. That's the sad thing. She has a following, and that's why the Prime Minister sat down with her for a lengthy interview. Sat down with this.
Where's the protest? Stand the up. Do you understand that yesterday, last night, the oligarch that was in charge of your government, he actually admitted to rigging the election. In a way. Obviously not explicitly, but he did say that without his help, the outcome would have been different. So maybe we should stand up. Land of the free. You guys have no democracy left. Look, I hope it's not true. It's not guaranteed to be true. I understand that. But it's time to at least inquire. Yeah, it's time to at least ask someone and go, was the election rigged? Can we have a redo? Like, I feel like there have been a few signs pointing to some suspicious dictatorship oligarch activity regardless of this. But I thought I'd see some protests, some riots, some chaos, some good old American freedom fighting.
Don't even know what to say about the unhinged rant or those completely unco dance moves. Is that what she was trying to do? You know, it was only a couple of months ago when Abby was crying hysterically, claiming another leftist feminist, Clementine Ford, was bullying her. Remember this?
Stop lying about my character and my intentions. Please stop dehumanizing me. Please, you can criticize my content, you can criticize my work, just I'm begging you to stop lying about my intentions and stop saying that I have a personality disorder. You don't know me.
Okay, now to an EasyJet passenger who became a lefty losing it mid-flight when his Trump derangement got the better of him. Thankfully, there were passengers on that flight who took matters into their own hands, but this dude is headed for the no-fly list.
Going to bomb the plane! Dead to America, dead to Trump! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!
Oh my God. You got
Sit down. Don't move.
And the dim, woke sports journalists never disappoint. They are so reliably predictable. Listen to how they framed this question to Baltimore Ravens head coach John Harbaugh. How they tried to shame him for meeting with the US president, a leader of the free world.
Donald Trump has said, denigrating things about Baltimore, including no human being who wants to live there. As a prominent representative of Baltimore.
Well, how you frame that question? I would frame the question like, you got a chance to go visit with the president, man. What was that experience like? It was amazing. It was awesome. And I promise you, I root for our president.
What a brilliant way to answer that question. And the Super Bowl winning coach wasn't done yet. This is how you handle the biased, bitter press.
My mom and President Trump, just seeing how he treated her was really meaningful.
Let's bring in Newsweek senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, I don't know what the coach's politics are. Frankly, I don't really care. But his ability to handle the media hacks, well, it was Trump-like.
Well, Rita, John Harbaugh and his brother Jim Harbaugh, who's the head coach at the University of Michigan, are actually pretty well-known political conservatives. In fact, in Michigan, his brother Jim Harbaugh is known to be active in pro-life causes there. So, this woke reporter picked the wrong guy. I mean, they picked the wrong guy because not only are their politics considerably right of center, but as you saw in that clip, they are very quick on their feet, the Harbaugh brothers as well. They're also very good football coaches. I'm actually a big football fan. I follow this sort of thing closely there. But this reporter got totally whipped in his face. And by the way, Rita, this is emblematic of American sports media in general. I mean, how many years has ESPN here in the United States been going down the tubes? This is why you had Clay Travis, who founded Outkick many years ago, sold it to Fox News for oodles of money. There is a huge market for anti-woke sports media consumption here in the United States, but unfortunately, far too many of our reporters are just these woke left-wing idiots with their heads so far up their rear end they can't even see straight. But thankfully, we have people like John Harbaugh to kind of dish it out. And these reporters really do deserve it.
They do, and it's something that is evident here in Australia, the sports media leaning very heavily left. Massive divide, Josh, with the audience, because sports fans, yes, they come from all sides of politics, but sports fans, particularly football fans, tend to lean right, and the media that serves them is so completely out of touch with their values, and how they present sport has become deeply political.
100%. Look, sports in many ways is a reflection of the nation's culture. Now, once upon a time in America, there's actually a really great quote. There was a quote from a former United States Supreme Court Chief Justice back in the 1950s, 1960s. And he had this famous quote, I'm paraphrasing him, but it's very close to verbatim, where he used to say that he would like to start to read the newspaper not by opening to page 1, but by opening at the sports section, because when he gets his news of the day, he rather, in his own words, start with man's triumphs rather than man's failures there. So there's something that once upon a time, Rita, was really kind of grand and unifying about sports. It was really kind of a thing that we could all rally around the flag at the World Cup or the Olympics or whatever there. But again, sports media here in the United States, it sounds like in Australia as well, it's just gotten so hyper partisan there. And yeah, there's a massive, massive gap between what these media hacks are saying there and the median fan who really just wants to go get a 6-pack of beer and watch his team kick some butt. And that's really all the median sports fan here in the U.S. wants to do there. But again, good for John Harbaugh for dishing it out real solid, I think.
Yep, so many people, one of the reasons they love sport is to escape the rest of the week, escape the world of politics and all the pressures of daily life. Now, before we get to the extraordinary trade deals struck by the Trump administration in the last few days, let's talk about a horrific case out of Texas. Here you see a sex trafficking victim, I'm about to play you footage of this, trying to escape, but is captured and carried back to the property where she was being held.
Police say this video shows a glimpse of a Chinese immigrant woman's attempted escape from suspected trafficker Jose Carcamo. Authorities say he's the man seen carrying the struggling victim back to where she'd reportedly been held captive for days.
Josh, we have since learned that the illegal immigrant you see in that clip snatching that Chinese sex slave, essentially, and he had his deportation case cancelled under the Biden administration. Jose Carcamo from Honduras was accused of bounding, punching and raping that woman while holding her captive. He is now thankfully in custody, Josh, but how many others like him had their deportation cases terminated under the previous administration?
You know, Rita, I can actually speak personally to this at least a little bit. So this is in Texas. I used to live in Texas. I clerked for a federal appeals court judge in Texas 7 years ago now. When I was clerking on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, I actually distinctly remember working on a case that was based in the Houston, Texas area, but involved just the fact pattern was just truly horrific. I mean, unspeakable stuff there. I mean, you're talking here about child sex trafficking of these girls from Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, and all these Latin American gangs that are here illegally working with the cartels. I mean, to the government's credit back then, the Trump administration, the U.S. attorneys were prosecuting the crap out of this and throwing the book at them, and good for them. But, you know, whether it was that, whether it's this terrible video we see here, you know, Rita, we so often hear about the proverbial guy who was just brought here when he was a kid and he's hardworking and he's sweating his brow off, picking the strawberries in the strawberry field. And look, I mean, maybe some of these folks exist, okay? Your mileage may vary there. But you know what? Way too many illegal aliens in this country are really, really, really not that great people. You know, once upon a time, Donald Trump said, you know, when they come up through Mexico, whether they're in Mexico or coming up just through Mexico there, they're not sending their best. And you know what? He was onto something, because when your first act to enter this country is to commit a crime to come here illegally, guess what? You have a proclivity. You are prone to commit more illegal behavior there. It is a direct correlation. It should not be shocking in the least, in the very least bit, that illegal aliens are disproportionately prone to commit more crimes. That is what happens when you start off by coming here by committing a crime in the first place.
Now let's talk about the deals the Trump administration has struck in recent days. Firstly, with Japan, a huge deal, the biggest struck yet until the EU deal. The European Union certainly talked a big game, but they seem to have capitulated in rather spectacular fashion.
You're known as a tough negotiator and deal maker.
But
what
fair.
is in front and fair. And what is in front of us?
That's less important.
If we are successful, I think it would be the biggest deal each of us has ever struck. So I'm very much looking forward.
Ever struck by anybody.
And if this deal ends up being finalised, it gives the US pretty much all it wanted without the EU getting much in return. That is called a rebalance, according to the EU president.
I think the president is right. We have a 50 to 50% chance to strike a deal. And indeed, it is about rebalancing. So you can call it fairness, you can call it rebalancing. We have a surplus, the United States has a deficit, and we have to rebalance it. We have an excellent trade relation. It's a huge volume of trade that we have together.
Ursula von der Leyen, the EU president, Josh, talked a big game before this agreement, but it certainly looks like a capitulation. You look at the details that have been released, it is a massive win for the US.
You know, Rita, Donald Trump is the only man that I've ever seen who flies over to Scotland, the home of golf, to play some rounds of golf with his family, to usher in a new Trump-affiliated golf course redesign. And he comes home bagging one of the greatest, most historic trade deals in the history of modern commerce. I mean, this is truly historic stuff. And you know, whether it's really getting the better of Ursula von der Leyen and the European Union bureaucrats, whether it's the massive trade deal that the United States just reached with Japan about a week and a half ago. We had a deal with the Philippines in the interim that kind of flew under the radar. By the way, holding trade aside just for a second there, he also reached a ceasefire deal between Thailand and Cambodia. I mean, this is just like, it's just a rapid fire win after win after win. I mean, I have never experienced, frankly, this much winning from a president in my life. I don't know, there's always things where you can do better. There's Epstein, there's some judicial losses, fine. But this president is really on fire at this moment. He is hitting his first year swing and then some. And by the way, going back just briefly to the trade issue, Rita, all of the critics, all of the president's various neoliberal critics, both right, left, center, all in between there, you know, they said he's going to destroy the economy. Nothing like that has happened. Literally nothing like that has happened. The inflation rate has barely budged. Meanwhile, massive revenue is coming into the U.S. Treasury. And most importantly, he is fulfilling his America First campaign promise of trying to reshore manufacturing, supply chains there. It's all working according to plan. And frankly, I think the people who were saying that he would tank the economy, we would go immediately nose diving into a recession. I think it's probably not too soon to say that the president probably deserves an apology from some of these folks.
I don't think an apology will be forthcoming. They have got so many of these doomsday predictions wrong about his policies, and he just keeps rolling along. You mentioned the Japanese deal. That was enormous as well. And again, the details released, a massive win for the US.
Absolutely massive. You know, and to Donald Trump's credit, Rita, you know, he's been talking about Japan for a long time. In fact, before the rise of China, there was the rise of Japan. You know, Trump has these old videos on Oprah Winfrey's show from the 1980s, talking about how Japan is not playing by the rules. They're dumping, meaning that they're subsidizing their prices for artificially cheap prices on the foreign stage. They're doing this and that. He's been obsessed with Japan for a very long time. Literally before Donald Trump was talking about China, you know, as he says it, before there was China, there was Japan, and Trump's been on this one for essentially his entire adult life. So I think that this is not just a massive win for the United States. There, it's not just a boost to the American auto industry as well, talking about these 15% tariffs on Japanese automobiles there. But I think this deal in particular has some kind of personal gravitas for the president because his eye has been on the Japanese trade issue for literally 40 to 50 years.
Well, yeah, we played that clip from 40 years ago on Oprah talking about how Japan was just absolutely decimating certain industries in America by the advantageous deals they had in place.
Yes.
Now, whilst he was in Europe, he also lectured the EU about its illegal immigration crisis.
Immigration, Europe has a tremendous problem, and we do too, but we've sealed our borders. We have nobody coming in, and we have hundreds of thousands of people being taken out, and the bad ones first, and I think we're doing a very good job of that. But we had, I mean, it literally registered 0 people last month. You probably saw that.
Yes, you probably saw that, Ursula. The trade deals, of course, are enormously important. The defence deal is important. But there are also cultural, social issues, and it's something that the Vice President has spoken about in Europe, the illegal immigration crisis, the way the face of Europe is being changed, the crackdown on free speech, all sorts of cultural issues, values issues that were also at the forefront of the Trump administration's approach to Europe, Josh. This is something that is bigger than just trade.
Totally. I mean, I think to Donald Trump's visit to The Hague, the Netherlands, for this NATO summit, maybe about a month ago, give or take, And it was at this summit that the European NATO countries announced collectively, if memory serves, that they would agree to commit to spending at least 2 to 3% of GDP on defense spending. But many of them said that they would try to go all the way up to 5% there, which is kind of the highest tier that the NATO charter calls for there. This is a long sought after foreign policy goal when it comes to trying to tighten and to ultimately better and improve U.S.-European relations there. So whether it's trade, whether it's foreign policy, indeed, whether it is these cultural issues, trying to tell the Europeans to get control of their own porous borders, as J.D. Vance did at the Munich Security Conference back in February. Stop censoring dissident speech. Frankly, I'm not sure that the Brits have listened particularly well, at least yet, under Keir Starmer there at 10 Downing Street. They've got a ways to go when it comes to that one there. But all of this is ultimately oriented, Rita, towards not just trying to diminish Europe, trying to fortify Europe. What the American goal on Europe is to fortify and strengthen Europe, to try to make Europe a stronger place, a prouder place, a civilization that once again tries to perpetuate its own values from one generation to the next, and then from a national security perspective can ward off the Russian bear in Moscow. All of that in turn will allow the United States to focus on its own number one enemy, the Chinese Communist Party.
It wants to make Europe also self-sufficient, and I think that was the entire goal that is now being achieved with NATO, with increasing defence spending. The media presented it as an attack against NATO, undermining NATO, when it was very much the opposite of that. Josh Hammer, we always enjoy your insights. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita, very much.